the best of human beings, Pururava, began freely enjoying the company of Urvashi, who engaged in sexual activities with him in many celestial places, such as Chaitrarata and Nandana-Kanana, where the demigods enjoy. Urvashi's body was as fragrant as the saffron of a lotus. Being enlivened by the fragrance of her face and body, Pururava enjoyed her company for many days with great jubilation. Not seeing Urvashi in his assembly, the king of heaven, Lord Indra, said, "Without Urvashi my assembly is no longer beautiful." Considering this, he requested the Gandharvas to bring her back to his heavenly planet. Thus the Gandharvas came to earth, and at midnight, when everything was dark, they appeared in the house of Pururava and stole the 2 lambs entrusted to the king by his wife Urvashi. Urvashi treated the 2 lambs like her own sons. Therefore, when they were being taken by the Gandharvas and began crying, Urvashi heard them and rebuked her husband. "Now I am being killed," she said, "under the protection of an unworthy husband who is a coward and a eunuch, although he thinks himself a great hero. Because I depended on him, the plunderers have deprived me of my 2 sons, the lambs, and therefore I am now lost. My husband lies down at night in fear, exactly like a woman, although he appears to be a man during the day." Pururava, stricken by the sharp words of Urvashi, like an elephant struck by its driver's pointed rod, became very angry. Not even dressing himself properly, he took a sword in hand and went out naked into the night to follow the Gandharvas who had stolen the lambs. After giving up the 2 lambs, the Gandharvas shone brightly like lightning, thus illuminating the house of Pururava. Urvashi then saw her husband returning with the lambs in hand, but he was naked, and therefore she left. No longer seeing Urvashi on his bed, Pururava was most aggrieved. Because of his great attraction for her, he was very much disturbed. Thus, lamenting, he began traveling about the earth like a madman. Once, during his travels all over the world, Pururava saw Urvashi accompanied by 5 companions on the bank of the Sarasvati at Kurukshetra. With jubilation in his face, he then spoke to her in sweet words, as follows. "O my dear wife, O most cruel one, kindly stay, kindly stay. I know that I have never made you happy until now, but you should not give me up for that reason. This is not proper for you. Even if you have decided to give up my company, let us nonetheless talk for some time. O goddess, now that you have refused me, my beautiful body will fall down here, and because it is unsuitable for your pleasure, it will be eaten by foxes and vultures." "My dear king, you are a man, a hero. Don't be impatient and give up your life. Be sober and don't allow the senses to overcome you like foxes. Don't let the foxes eat you. In other words, you should not be controlled by your senses. Rather, you should know that the heart of a woman is like that of a fox. There is no use making friendship with women. Women as a class are merciless and cunning. They cannot tolerate even a slight offense. For their own pleasure, they can do anything irreligious, and therefore they do not fear killing even a faithful husband or brother. Women are very easily seduced by men. Therefore, polluted women give up the friendship of a man-wisher and establish false friendship among fools. Indeed, they seek newer and newer friends, one after another. O my dear king, you will be able to enjoy with me as my husband at the end of every year for 1 night only. In this way you will have other children, one after another." Understanding that Urvashi was pregnant, Pururava returned to his palace. At the end of the year, there at Kurukshetra, he again obtained the association of Urvashi, who was then the mother of a heroic son. Having regained Urvashi at the end of the year, King Pururava was most jubilant, and he enjoyed her company in sex for one night. But then he was very sorry at the thought of separation from her. So Urvashi spoke to him as follows. She said, "My dear king, seek shelter of the Gandharvas, for they will be able to deliver me to you again." In accordance with these words, the king satisfied the Gandharvas by prayers, and the Gandharvas, being pleased with him, gave him an Agnistali girl who looked exactly like Urvashi. Thinking that the girl was Urvashi, the king began walking with her in the forest, but later he could understand that she was not Urvashi but Agnistali. King Pururava then left Agnistali in the forest and returned home, where he meditated all night upon Urvashi. In the course of his meditation, the Treta millennium began, and therefore the principles of the three Vedas, including the process of performing yajna to fulfill fruitive activities, appeared within his heart. When the process of fruitive yajna became manifest within his heart, King Pururava went to the same spot where he had left Agnistali. There he saw that from the womb of a shami tree, an ashvata tree had grown. He then took a piece of wood from that tree and made it into 2 aranis. Desiring to go to the planet where Urvashi resided, he chanted mantras, meditating upon the lower arani as Urvashi, the upper one as himself, and the piece of wood between them as his son. In this way he began to ignite a fire. From Pururava's rubbing of the aranis came a fire. By such a fire one can achieve all success in material enjoyment, and be purified in seminal birth, initiation, and in the performance of sacrifice, which are invoked with the combined letters A-U-M, Om. Thus the fire was considered the son of King Pururava. By means of that fire, Pururava, who desired to go to the planet where Urvashi resided, performed a sacrifice by which he satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, the enjoyer of the results of sacrifice. Thus he worshipped the Lord, who is beyond the perception of the senses, and is the reservoir of all the demigods. In the Satya Yuga, the first millennium, all the Vedic mantras were included in one mantra, Pranava, the root of all Vedic mantras. In other words, the Atharva Veda alone was the source of all Vedic knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, was the only worshipable deity. There was no recommendation for worship of the demigods. Fire was one only, and the only order of life in human society was known as Hamsa. O Maharaj Pariksit, at the beginning of Treta Yuga, King Pururava inaugurated a karma kanda sacrifice. Thus Pururava, who considered the yajnik fire his son, was able to go to Gandharva Loka as he desired. Thus ends the 14th chapter of the 9th canto of the Shrimad Bhagavatam, entitled King Pururava Enchanted by Urvashi.